Hey guys, this is the very beginning of the Viper architecture project which we are starting, which we'll be using without RxSwift, which is using protocols. So even before starting, I thought it would be a great idea to actually show you how to even create a simple module. So I'm not going into much detail in this one, but then it'll be more like you how to create a specific module which you can consume within a Viper architecture. So uh, without much introduction, I don't think you need much introduction. Like, what is Viper? You already have an intro video on it. If you have to check that out, you go back and check one of the tutorials which I had done earlier to understand how Viper works. But this is just a beginning where we will try to understand how we'll actually create a module which is like something which is reusable or acts as a module which can be consumed by the overall project. So let's get started. Let me start with creating a single view app. Let me just call it, this is part of a bigger project which we are building. Not a bigger project, I'm planning to have the bigger project for the RxSwift one, which is like a different altogether a different approach while we create that Viper architecture project. But for this one we'll stick with protocols. I won't say it'll be a bigger one, but this is more like a grocery shopping application where we'll have a grocery list. When you launch a home screen, you'll have a grocery list which will be empty. You have not added anything, and you will have to go to a screen where you'll have to pick up your grocery items and then keep on adding that. So we will have a cart section and listing section and everything, and we will also see how the navigation will work there. But at least this episode is not intended with that. This is more like a very simplistic way of identifying or understanding how we will create a module which can be consumed. So let me just show you how to. So let me just call this green grocery app. So that's my app identifier. I'm not adding any unit testing here. I'll just call that green grocery. Go to that section. I already have backup of whatever I had tried out. So this, at least this specific code base, whatever I'm creating, will go to my Patreon site. If you need access to the code base, you'll have to go to my Patreon site. I'll share the link along with this one. So you'll have to go there, and it's a subscription based one. You'll have to at least subscribe to some of the different tiers available there, and then you can get access to it. So at least the code I'm not giving for free, but you can watch the videos for free and how to approach Viper architecture project. So I'm creating that here. So that's my project. Let's go to see green grocery. So already it will have a launcher and everything. I'll start renaming these things. I have a view controller. Let me just create one module. For that, let me just create a folder for that. Let me call it home module, and start moving this view controller. I'm going to reuse this view controller which you already have. Just move that within the home module, and let's just rename that to home view controller. So in this episode, if you're expecting an end-to-end application using Viper, we are not yet there. This is just a module episode where I'll just show you how to create the modules which will have different dependencies for the, let's say, a view and a presenter and an interactor and everything. That's the whole intention, nothing more. So if you're actually waiting up for the project, then you'll have to wait a little more. Let me just start creating the V part of the Viper. Let me just call that. So the V part is a protocol which will actually represent your view controller. So let me just call that home view. So that's my first thing, the V of the Viper. And let me just keep that empty for the time being, but let's include an extension and implement that, so that I can say home view represents my view controller. In this way, we are avoiding the dependency of UI view controller directly to any other layer. Let's say a router can have it, but then let's say a presenter router will have an will not have information of home view controller, but router will know that it needs a UI view controller to do some operation like navigating to another screen. So that I'll show you when we reach there. So this is my view, the V part. I've created that now. So let's now create the presenter. So I'm not directly going to the interactor first, which is the I part, but the P, the presenter. Let me just call it home view, or let's home presenter. So that's a plain Swift class. Let's just call it home presenter. So it also needs a protocol definition. Let's call it home presentation. So this we will stick with the implementation later, but then let's just implement whatever is needed now, which will implement this. So that's my home presentation. Let me just increase the font size a little. So I guess this will be easier to read for you. So that's my presenter implementation, not implementation, just the basic definition of a presenter. So we are done with the presenter. Let's create the router now. So now I'm not going with the order of VIPER. I'm just going with whatever comes in the order where we create the module. Let's say I start with the view, then view will have a dependency to the presenter. Presenter in turn will have a reverse dependency to the view. Then comes the presenter has a responsibility of handling the use case. Means in the sense it has to direct the interactor to handle the use case, as well as direct the router to handle the navigation. So let's just create the router part first. Home router, let me just call that class home router. Similar to however created protocols for the other sections, let's just call home routing for this and create an extension. Home router will implement the home routing. So again, just plain construction without implementation. This episode will more or less be the construction and adding the dependencies. Basic implementation, I'll just call it hello Viper. So I'll just have that basic implementation, not something which is like advanced, which we'll handle in the later tutorial. So let's continue with this. Let me just create the interactor now. Let me just rename that home interactor. So protocol for a interactor, normally it is represented as a use case. So I'll just call it as home use case. So use case is something which handles your business logic. So let's just have it as a use case. Extension of home interactor will implement your home use case. So we are done with even that. Now the next part is your entity. So as a definition, this can be your persistent layer as well. So the entity can be your persistent layer, but in modern applications, we don't actually expose the persisting layer. Let's say if it is core data or a realm database, it's not a good idea to actually expose the database as such to the application layer, but in turn abstract that and then expose a model object which will not have any dependency to that specific database. So it's a good idea to have the model Swift plain object as a model, and then expose that to your application side, or not even application side. It can only come until maybe the interactor and max to the presenter. So the view controller should not even know about the model. So that's how a real ideal scenario will be. So I have this in, I'm not including, maybe I'll just include a model, which will not make sense here because let's say I don't have a real need, or maybe, yeah, I'll just call it as home model. So can be a struct. Maybe I'll just have a property called title, which is something which I'll use to show in the view layer. So I have the home model now. So ideally this should not be part of this module. We can create a model section where we'll keep all the required models, and maybe the transformations, like that is something advanced for the time's sake. We'll just keep it as a simple model, but when you are actually implementing, we might require transformers from, let's say, a realm entity to a model object, or a core data entity to a model object. Some kind of a transformation is required at that point, but we'll come to that later point. But here it's more like a plain model object, no persistence. So I have it as, maybe I can just create a group for models and then maybe move this there. So it makes sense, like models is here. I'm not calling it entity, even I can call it as entity. So home model is part of an entity now. So what do we have right now? We have the view, then we have the interactor, which holds your, or does your business logic. Then you have the presenter, which has the responsibility to delegate different works. Let's say you have to do some business logic operations, and on response you need to do some maybe a navigation, then this can do it, the presenter can do it. And let's say if you have to update something to your view again back, then even the presenter can do that. Then you have the router, whose responsibility is just navigation, or even something like, let's say if you have to use a submodule, maybe let's say an example being, let's say if you have to have a module which checks for connectivity and displays connectivity information, let's say if the network is there or not, then that can be something, a use case where you can, not a use case, a routing module which can be injected to this module. Let's say if you have to show some network indicator where you have, or you are in, whether you are in network or not, or something like that. So that's the purpose of a router. Then you have the entity, which, like I said, is more like the model object. And data access is something we can create separately. It need not be part of home interactor, where home interactor's responsibility might be just that. It has the responsibility of handling all your business logics, but then it cannot direct, it's not a good way that this is the layer where which will make a call to, let's say, an alarm or fire service. It's better that be kept aside in a different service layer as such, and this interactor just interfaces or consumes those services and then does its work. But this is more the interactor's responsibility in this case. So we just covered everything, presenter and everything. Let's now create something called as a builder, which is something which creates the dependencies between each and every layers which created. Let's say the V and I and P and R, everything. So let's call it home module builder. So it's a class again, home module builder, and let's have a function called build. In this case, I'm not accepting any response type, but it returns finally a UI view controller. So at least in this, in the way I am implementing, the home module builder is returning an UI view controller. But then I have seen in some other implementations or a different version of Viper, like let's say an Uber app, they are implementing it in a different way, where the modules created are not directly a view element, but it's more like an interactor or something. That's what I had read in their whatever the Uber engineering blogs were mentioning. So it depends on different versions. Let's say according to them, it's more like they don't need a view all the time. It's more like a module has to be available. Let's say if you are receiving a PNS, then if you have to handle a specific scenario at that point, then it does not make sense that if that PNS has to be silently handled and you have to process it, then it does not make sense to have a specific module to return a view controller. In that case, it makes sense to have, let's say, a interactor being the module, because it has to handle some data and process it and maybe save it to the database, maybe silently if it is a silent PNS. So that is something different. So people are implementing Viper in different ways, but more or less the approach is the same. So let's do this UI kit. So UI view controller is what I am returning here. So let's start with this is my view controller, which is now a home. Where is my reference? Home view controller. Let me also add an storyboard identifier here so that I can create this view controller from the storyboard. So that's my view controller. So whatever I'm trying to do here is a very basic thing, like I'll add a label, center it horizontally and vertically maybe, then add some width and height. Okay, that's it. And then center, change the font a little bit. Okay, pretty much. So that's my label. Let me just add an outlet to that label. So whatever I'm trying to do here is I'm just going to print or show hello Viper. That's the only thing I'm trying to do with this simple example for the time's sake. The overall idea is to just build a module, and maybe once we start building the bigger application, we'll start building multiple modules and add the dependencies similar to this. So let me call it as hello label. So I added the dependency, and let me just clear this so that we know that I'm not setting anything. So I have it showing an error because I need to return a view controller now. So I have added a storyboard identifier. So let me just bring the storyboard up. UI storyboard. So in it, it's a main, it's called main storyboard, and that's my storyboard. Simple as that, my storyboard. And now let me just create the view controller. I'll just call it as view. So I have the storyboard. So initialize view controller using the identifier. So I have given the same name like home view controller. So that's my view controller. View, return view. Plain MVC world, this is how it will look like. Just the view you return. Normally people end up writing everything in this one view controller, and that had been still remains a big problem in iOS architectures which people are building. And this is what we are trying to do here, like how to delegate different responsibilities to different things. Let's say views responsibility is only to show data which it receives. It does not need to process anything. So that's what we are trying to do here. Not at least in this, but at least the beginning of this project. I'm just giving a heads up like what we are trying to do with this architecture. So let's cast it to home view controller. So we know that it's going to be a home view controller. So let's start adding the dependencies. So in my view controller, I need a reference to the presenter. So let's create that dependency. So I'll not be directly giving the presenter reference, but I'll give the presentation reference, which is my protocol. So keep it as lightweight protocol oriented programming, where I'll just only give the information about my protocol to this view controller. So that's now done. So when we actually do this, we need to pass that dependency in our builder. Where is my builder? Okay. So view dot presenter. I need to now create that presenter. So let's presenter is equal to home presenter. It should be fine. So now I have the responsibility of presenter, or the dependency of the presenter being injected to the view through like this. The presenter is done. Now I need, let me just show you something which I am trying to implement. I have this hello label right now here. Text is equal to hello world, hello VIPER, let's call it. So in a simple application, this is fine, where you don't have much processing being done. You just have to show something. But let's say if you had to fetch it from the server and then save it to the database and get that value back to the view controller, this will become messy in your view controller at least. So whatever I'm trying to do is, let's say this value hello VIPER is coming from the server. Then let's think in those ways, where I'll get it from the server, process it using the home interactor, pass it back through the home presenter, because presenter is asking the interactor to give that data from the server. I'll get that information through the home presenter and then dispatch it back to the view through this home view which we defined. So this is a normal MVC way of doing it, but let's start doing it in a non-MVC VIPER way. So first thing first, I need to define something for the Viewdidload part. So on load itself, I need to call the presenter. It does not do much. It's just, that's my presenter, and it implements that Viewdidload. So that's it. We'll come to what I'm trying to do in a bit. So Viewdidload has a definition to this. So now whatever I can do is I can call or tell the presenter to do something, sorry, to do something on this view controller's view did load. Whatever I need to do, let's say in an MVC world, wherever whatever I will do with a view did load, now I am asking the presenter in a VIPER world to do its processing like this. So this is going to go off soon. So view did load is happening now. So in the view did load, so we were setting the dependencies here. So I have the presenter dependency here. So now for the presenter to work, it needs information, or it needs dependencies of the interactor and router. At least in this, whatever I'm trying to do, router is not going to do anything, but at least interactor will make a call to get that hello VIPER value. So in this case, I need to start passing the dependencies of the interactor and the router. So let me just get that. So presenter need a interactor. So I'll just use the, not the direct interactor, but I'll use the home use case. So everything will be using the protocols, not the direct classes. So that's how you do protocol oriented programming. So router, home router, I'll just call the routing, which is the protocol part. So here let's add the dependencies, interactor, home use case, and router, home routing. Done with that. Now set those values. That is done, but last for those parameters now. So I am now having to create those two. Now I'll create the interactor, which is the home interactor, the real class which will do the business logic operation, and the router, home router. Let's pass the parameters, interactor and the router. So that's done. It will not give you any errors now. And one more thing, which because we are not going to handle much of the interactor here, I'll just have to show you something where for navigation, at least, router needs to know about the view controller or the view which is doing this operation, view controller at least, which is doing all these navigations. Because if it has to, let's say, navigate to a different screen, it needs to use the view controller or the navigation controller. In this starting, I'm not creating a navigation controller. I'll just be using a plain view controller. But then if it has to really navigate, let's say it push to a new view controller, it needs to know about the current view controller. So we need to pass that reference to the router. So let var view controller, it does not know whether this is home view controller or something, but it will just know that it is actually a UI view controller or a UI navigation controller. So we are not exposing directly the view controller, otherwise it will not make sense that we will not have that decoupling available, where each and every router, if it starts knowing about the real view controller which it created, then it will lead to dependency of view. So it's better that we keep it as. So here also you need a UIKit import. So self.viewController is the view which we created. Now it will give you an error where we'll pass the view information, which is what we created here. So that also is done. So let's just go back to our presenter and do whatever we were planning to do. So we were having this value, let's say, where is our view controller? This view controller wants this hello Viper. So we are getting it using the interactor. So let's create a function here. We'll just call it as get title and return a string. Nothing, it's just plain simple example, and then implement that here. So maybe I'll just return whatever home model we had. So let's create a home model. So this will look a little silly right now, but in a real example, this is coming from a server. We are passing it maybe a JSON, saving it to a database. Maybe it will trigger a notification from the database, and your UI gets updated. But that's like a real example, complex one. But this is plain simple one where we'll just stick to the basics. Home Viper, whatever I had tried to get there, I'm just including it here. So this is expecting a home model. So I have an interactor function now, and this is plain, it's not accepting any parameters right now, but then in a real example it might accept a DB's reference or API service layers reference or anything like that. So that's not included in this one, but when we actually implement the future things for green grocery, then we'll have an API and a database and everything integrated into this. So now I'll go back to the presenter. So now this Viewdidload, I know what to do. So let me just call the home model is what the interactor is returning. So I'll just call the get title on Viewdidload. I get the home model. So now I'll receive the value here. So before all this, let's just run this app and see whether we are getting those. It should be as simple as, it's not so complex, we'll get it anyway. Home model. So let's just use a print and show. Home model value is so let's go through the workflow. Viewdidload gets called, presenter gets called, presenter has dependencies injected, and then presenter's Viewdidload, I am calling the interactor to get the title. And now next thing is that I need to send it back to the view to update itself. So for that, let me go back to the view and create a function, update title, and I'll just get the title string, and then implement it here. And whatever was there comes here. So it's more like, it will sound more like, why did I do all this? But then when it's a complex project where you had to delegate some work to the server and all, it will make sense. Here it's more like you went to the server, got this value, came back and updated this value. So if you had to do some even formatting, presenter would have taken care of it. So here the responsibility of the view controller is reduced to just showing your dumb data, nothing more, no processing, no business logic. So this should be how your view controller should be in an ideal world, not in an MVC world where we implement it. So we are very close to the implementation. So whatever we did, went through this. Now we don't have the reference to the view here, so that's what we need to pass now. Var home view. Now you'll start shouting at me if I don't make it big, because home presenter is not the one which created the home view. So if you don't make it fix, cyclic dependency will happen. Go here, set as class. Home view should be of class type. Now it will not give you that error. Weak home view. Okay, I need to now pass it. That should be home view. Cell dot view is equal to view. Just keep it in the order where I had passed everything. Why is it still okay? Let's just pass that. Let's fix the other error soon. So I'm passing this as the view. Still have an error. Go back to clean. Weak variable should be optional type. Okay. So let's now do that. View, I have the view reference now, so I can easily update the view title by passing the home view model, home view, what's that, home model dot title. It's pretty much there now. So all the dependencies are in place, looks like. Let's go to the builder and see what all we did. We created initially we created the view and just returned it the MVC way, but then in a non-MVC Viper world we have to have a presenter needs to know about the view. For presenter to do its work, it needs to have a reference to the interactor and the router, and presenter needs a views reference so that it can update back the view. So it's a weak reference which we set. So the overall dependency is set like this. Everything is set, build. Now, okay, let's also make this static. I can just call the home module builder or build. It will return me the view controller. So let's go to our project. I don't need the main to handle it, main interface. Let's keep it clean. Go to my app delegate and then override these things. So my window frame UI screen dot main dot bounds. So we do it and initialize your view controller, which is our home module builder dot build, creates that. Now set the root view controller to that initial view controller and window dot make key and visible. That's it. So this should be enough to load the module. Let's run and see using my so home view controller. One more thing we will do is in the presenter, when it comes back before updating, let's call the scheduler main scheduler dispatch in main. so that we are sure that the view is loading in the main thread, because the processing might be happening in a different thread. So this will need foundations import. View reference enclosure needs self. So we don't do anything if it's not self is not available. It's okay. Let's run it once more. That's it. Hello Viper. More like fetching from the server, formatting it and showing it in your view. So your view is pretty simple right now. It does not have to do any processing. So this module is whatever I try to do today is not actually representing how a Viper should work, but this is what the beginning of Viper is all about, where we create modules, add dependencies, create different modules, and then keep passing these dependencies whenever, let's say, a navigation from one screen to the other happens. These modules are the building blocks of a Viper module. So Viper architecture. So if you need access to the code base, you will have to go to my Patreon site and subscribe to any of the tiers available there. Specific to this, I'll post the link where you need to go and get access to this the code base. But it's at a very nascent stage. We are not yet there. But then if you are curious about this project, then you can go there and subscribe and get access, early access maybe, because I'll keep working on it and building it as and when I get the opportunity. Then so until the next episode, which is coming up soon, where I have to talk about MVVM, because I have seen in many of the recent interactions with different developers, I've seen that the MVVM implementation as such is completely different from whatever I have read or whatever I have implemented or whatever I have known about when it was started by Microsoft, when they launched their WPF platform for Windows application development, where data binding was possible. So whatever I see right now these days are when whoever is implementing MVVM, their whole responsibility of a view model as per those developers is just to dump whatever business logic that you are having in your view model to a view controller to the view model, which is not right. So I want to actually show a very basic example where using protocols, how you achieve a view model implementation for a small controlled a stepper control, which I'll be using in this project, where you are adding, when let's say when you are adding an item to a grocery item to a shopping cart, you need a stepper control. So that's where I'll start with. I have a very small tutorial on that, so that is coming up pretty soon, so watch out for that. So until the next episode, bye from me.